Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this British Malaysian Society event in partnership with our great friends, the Sarawak Association. So we're just opening up now, and the numbers are coming in. My name is David Stringer Lamar. I'm the Managing Director of Fortis Consulting London, and I have the honour of being an Executive Committee member of the British Malaysian Society and head of the International Trade Group. I'm very much looking forward to this excellent event here on a Saturday, at least here in London. So you can see my backdrop. I am in fact in the City of London. I'm at in the City of London, the Wall here near Moorgate, Liverpool Street Station. I can assure you it does not look anything at all like my background. It's grey, it's miserable, and it's drizzling, and it's about 6 degrees. I've been told by my people on the panel it's slightly better weather in Malaysia, so that's a good thing. So indeed, so people coming in now. We've got a terrific lineup of speakers, panelists, musicians, artists, general all-round interesting people that we're going to engage with this morning. So I just need to let you know, of course, as ever, for the benefit of the people who can't join us, this session is being recorded for people to look at later, and of course for the posterity of what's now going to be a fantastic session. Now you'll see below there is a chat function, so do let us know where you're dialing in from, please. It's always interesting to hear where people are joining us from, and of course because it's all about friendship and community, do let us know something about yourself. You know, your name is, what do you do, maybe your company, etc., and possibly your plans for this Saturday. My plan is personally to get a bit warmer than it is in London, and it's one of the last shopping days here, so I shall no doubt going to throw myself into the crowd later on this afternoon here in London. You'll also see down at the bottom, because at the end we're lucky enough that the speakers today have agreed to take some questions. So there's a question and answer button down there. So any stage, do put in your questions. And there's also a facility to like the questions and boost them up the rank, as it were, like a cab ranking there. So the chat function, do let us know where you're dialing in from. We got the format, so we'll have some introductory comments, then we're straight into the artistic elements with terrific input that we have. I would just like to show you my British Malaysia Society tie. There it is, beautiful thing that it is. Well, these are now officially on sale, and they're coming at you for £30, including postage. So if you contact the Society as soon as possible, you may be able to get them before Christmas, and just send in the money. Indeed, if you want to send in more money than that, that's perfectly welcome as well, and I'm sure Stephanie will figure out something worthwhile to do with it. Anyway, so let us move forward. I would now like to invite the illustrious Chair of the British Malaysian Society, Mae Sim Lai, OBE DL, to address us. Mae Sim Lai.
Thank you very much, David. Greetings from BMS from London. So I'd like to welcome you all, and I especially like to welcome our three speakers today. In particular, Ashley Nandong, because of his special connection with BMS. So BMS funded Ashley's 2 years master program at the Princess School of Traditional Arts. He graduated with top honors, and I was very pleased to attend his graduation art show, and in the presence of His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales. There is interest in Asian art and art from Southeast Asia, because about 8 years ago, I was involved organizing an exhibition in London for a Singapore and Indonesian gallery, where they displayed the works of artists from that part of the world. So in London each week, in the Asia Art Week, there are sort of opportunities for artists, like our 3 Malaysian ones today, to show off their work and to find buyers. So I hope that they will look into it and we will see more of Malaysian artists exhibiting in the UK and in the London Asia Art Week. So this is our second last BMS event before the end of the year. So I'm very pleased to invite you all to our Christmas party on the 17th of December, which is a tea and champagne party with readings by Dame Fiona Woolf, who was Lord Mayor of London, also our President, Sir Mark Moody Stewart. We have carol singing, and we even have a ladies' hat competition. So I would like to end by wishing you all Merry Christmas and a very happy New Year. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Mainstream Light sounds fascinating, this idea of tea and champagne and a ladies' hat competition. It's a shame we can't have a men's tie competition, but I suppose being men would all wear the same one anyway, so we'd all be winners and losers at the same time. Thank you very much indeed, Mainstream Light. It's now my great honour and pleasure to invite the President of the Sarawak Association, Anthony Cooper, to address us. Anthony.
Thank you, David, and thank you for hosting us all today. I am very pleased to welcome you all on behalf of the Sarawak Association. You will see on the screen, on my, I think it's on your right on the screen, my wife, Andrew Mayola, who should be an attendee, but is having trouble signing in. So she is also on the screen, so apologies for that. And
why do you have to apologize for me?
No fighting, please, no fighting.
And anyway, no, it's a great pleasure to welcome you all, and particularly those from Malaysia, Sarawak. And Ashley, hi Ashley, we've known for a long time. We see Ashley, I think we saw him earlier this year when we visit Kuching. On one occasion, he showed us around the Tun Jugah Foundation, where he was doing some, I don't know where you, internship. Is that rude to say that, Ashley? Anyway, it was a great pleasure. So I am only going to be the president of the Sarawak Association for another 4 days. We have our AGM on Wednesday evening on Zoom. So if anyone is interested in joining, contact Ben Mock, who is our events organizer, editor of our newsletter and everything else. And at that meeting, Jason Brooke will succeed me as president. Anyway, a very warm welcome to all the participants today, and thank you for attending. And I think I've said enough. So a happy Christmas and all the best for a much better 2021, yes. COVID-free, hopefully. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, David.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. I notice you are indeed wearing your Sarawak Association tie as well, which are no doubt available as well. And of course, welcome to your wife who's able to join us as well. So good to see you. Hello. Okay, let us now move on. So Ashley Nandong, the art practices of Ashley Nandong post BMS Prince's School. So Ashley, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, greetings from Kuching. It's evening here, and I assume it's good afternoon in London. So, selamat lemai guys semua berari Sarawak toh. That's Iban for good evening to all who are here based in Kuching, and selamat lemai guys kesidak ber-London dia. So that's Iban for good evening to everyone who is based in London. Yeah, the weather is just very well. A bit of rain, but not as cold as London in the autumn, coming into winter. So. Yeah, all is well. We're praying and we're very happy that the end of the year is getting better with vaccines starting to move around, especially in UK, I heard. So yeah, firstly, I would like to thank and Sim Lai, chairman of BMS, for hosting this event, and as well for attending my opening exhibition with the attendance of His Royal Highness Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, who is our patron to the school. As well, I would like to thank Anthony Cooper, President of Sarawak Association and the ex-chairman of British Malaysian Society, as well as the man who selected me to undertake the scholarship to the school. Thank you so much, Anthony. Also, I would like to thank Jason Brook, Vice President of Sarawak Association, to be President of Sarawak Association, and as my referee to the MA at the Princess School of Traditional Arts. Thank you, Jason Brook. And non-attendant right now is Karen Shepherd, who is also my referee for the MA under the Sarawak Heritage Society in 2016. Thank you as well very much to Stephanie Chong for as Cultural Group BMS Executive Committee for getting us here. Myself as the scholar for BMS British Malaysian Society to Princess School, as well Xiao Bin Yap, the curator and educator artist to our project, as well as my collaborator for Sensory Kuala Lumpur 2021, digital artist and architect. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for pretty much bringing us all together to participate in this really important meeting, I guess, or very exceptional time of the year to celebrate Christmas with everyone in London as well as Kuching. Ben Mok of Sarawak Association, thank you as well for doing the technical. David Lemaire, the MC and host. And I would like to thank the artists, Chong Yan Chuah and Xiao Bin Yap, who are my collaborators here for next year as well, for being on board this project. And I would like to thank friends and extended families, as well as the really wonderful people of London who hosted me during my time in London, as well as new friends that I found while I was in both the British Malaysian Society as well as the Sarawak Association. So yes, that's pretty much a greetings of salutation to everyone, and love from Kuching, Sarawak. Okay, I would like to start with a bit of what I am doing for the last few years here in Kuching, in Malaysia in particular. I've returned after 2 years, and I've done a few different forms of art relating as well to painting, as well as performance art and music. And this is as well a little bit of an autobiography of what I've done, and will present to you through a short video documentary. It's not very short, but short enough. 17 minutes that David Lemaire will play in a minute. So it's just a journey of what I've done here in Malaysia after returning from London, and then and as well to mention about the outcome that I will be collaborating with 2 artists who I've met in London, coincidentally, and then by fate now we're doing this project called Sensory 2021 under the Cendana program, which is a very prestigious Malaysian art body under the government's wing to promote art in Malaysia of Malaysian origins to locally as well, hopefully to overseas. So thank you to Xiao Bin Yap for attending, Chong Yan for doing this collaboration project, and I think Sarah Abu Bakar is here as well from Cendana. Thank you for being here. And yes, this will be a really interesting year coming in for 2021, and praying that vaccines will work and normalcy will come back again. Pray to God, hopefully that works. Om Swastiastu. So we would like to start with my documentary. So I will allow David to play it right now. Thank you so much, and please enjoy my show.
This documentary is about my art practices after completing my Masters of Art Studies under the British Malaysian Society scholarship at the Princess School of Traditional Arts, UK. My time in London had been an incredibly fulfilling experience as an artist. 2 years of studies in an MA in Traditional Arts ends with an art exhibition on a comparative study on tree of life motifs from Archipelago, Southeast Asia, and I graduated with a distinction. I returned to Malaysia in the autumn of 2018. I then traveled to the state of Malacca, a 3-hour journey by bus from the capital of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, to participate in the 10th Malacca Arts and Performance Festival held in UNESCO Malacca. In this festival, I collaborated with my Malacca-based art collective, where I choreographed a mixed-discipline performance art piece called Solidarity inside a UNESCO heritage site. Then, in December of 2018, I returned to my hometown, Kuching, Sarawak. Upon returning, I immediately joined the Borneo Bengal Artist Camp. It is here that I had the opportunity to meet with fellow artists from Sabah and Sarawak, as well as from neighboring Kalimantan, Indonesia. We conducted sharing sessions, art workshop, and did an outreach program at a village outside of Kuching City. At the end of it all, we collaborated to co-produce a village diorama art installation for the end of camp art exhibition. At the start of 2019, I decided to take up an apprenticeship in traditional Iban warp-ikat textile weaving at the Tun Jugah Foundation in the middle of Kuching City. This traditional art is called Pua Kumbu. Here, I was given training on the basics of ikat weaving by dedicated teachers and fellow weavers on the technique of ikat, a wax-resist method to create patterns on yarns, as well as dyeing of yarns using natural dyes, which I learned at the foundation and at the World Ikat Textile Symposium in Jakarta, Indonesia. During my participation at the World Ikat Textile Symposium, I had the opportunity to learn further on the subject of natural dyeing techniques through tie-dye and eco-print workshops with master dyers from Indonesia. We learned to make dye baths, study types of plant materials used to create dyes, modern ting, and in the process, had my first hands-on experience in creating tie-dye and eco-print cloth pieces. We also had a visit by Dato' Anthony Cooper, the ex-president of BMS, during his short visit to Kuching. In July of 2019, I was employed as a musician to play gongs for a music and cultural exchange art project called Song to the Earth at the 2019 Rainforest Fringe Festival held here in Kuching. It was a massive collaboration between local musicians from all over Sarawak, Kuala Lumpur, and leading musicians from Australia. It was a dream come true, as I had always wanted to perform at the Rainforest World Music Festival, and this festival is the precursor to the main highlight. Here is composer Corina Bonchak explaining the project.
Hi, my name's Corina Bonchak. I'm a composer from Australia. So Song to the Earth is really a piece that's inspired by nature and inspired by cycles and patterns in nature. So in this piece you walk through a forest of musicians, gong players, who play sometimes random hits that are like the birds across the treetops, and sometimes big rolling sounds that are like the waves of the ocean. And you'll also hear beautiful singing and incredible shakaman or Persian violin. I think that people who come and see this work will get a really intimate and expansive sense of sound. They'll really become aware of sound in space and how sound can move around. And I think it actually, by listening to sound in this way, we can feel more space within ourselves. When we go inward and just concentrate on sounds, especially ones that are kind of in harmony with nature, we can feel really peaceful. And we can feel that sense of space in ourselves. And that's something that I really want to create in my music.
Hello, welcome to Siniawan in Sarawak. Welcome to the Bikalan in Siniawan. My name's Andy Newland. My wife and I, Grace, own this place and we opened it 2 years ago. Locally, my name is Toke, which means boss. My wife is Toke Neo, lady boss. The Bikalan is a 1910, 1920 built wooden Belian shop house that we converted 2 years ago into a bar restaurant. Bikalan means jetty, or in Chinese, road to the water. So it's the center of Siniawan, which is really a blessing for us. Every entry point to Siniawan comes to the Bikalan. So when we bought it, it was very run down, falling to pieces, but the location is beautiful. And it really was going nowhere until 10 years ago when the Kapitan and Pangkulu for the area decided to open a night market on weekends. And it was amazingly successful. A lot of people decided they wanted to come and see the culture of Siniawan, enjoy the good food. So Siniawan was resurgent at that point. Now, we bought this around 2 years ago, and part of the process was to lift the back up and build a terrace there, which gave us a lovely big open space, which was just crying out for a mural. And we were lucky to meet Ashley, who is Iban, who's a painter, and he came and looked at the job and decided he was going to do it. It took on more than he realized because it was a very big project. And we try to show the whole detail of the whole community that's here. It starts with the temple, Buddhist temple from the Chinese Hakka and the Kuan Yin, moving into the Budaya fields, the rice paddy with the Budaya Baruch house and the Budaya maidens, then to the village of Siniawan itself, looking at it from the other side of the river, where you have the beautiful Mount Serambu in the background. And it's really a wonderful view that we see every day and still love. So he created that in very minute detail, even to the point where the locals were asking him to paint mother's plant pots in the windows and things like that, really to capture everything that Siniawan was about. Now, the back wall is dedicated to the Malay community, with the boat that we use every day and the geese that chase everybody all the time. Really, it's synonymous with Siniawan, that boat. So very important to capture that part. And the third wall, the side wall, is dedicated purely to the nature of Sarawak. And it's probably the most fun wall because Ashley was able to just create with that. He didn't have to follow an exact pattern. So it celebrates all the wildlife, the jungle, the sunset, and really the feeling of being in Sarawak. So that tells you a little bit about what we do. Now, the reason for creating the Bikalan is the pub is very important in British culture. It's a meeting place, it's a social place. So as nothing like that existed around here, we decided, Grace and I, that we should maybe try to build that. So that's what we tried to do, and we're indebted to Ashley for his work, many months of work, creating the beautiful mural, which is now really one of the landmarks of Siniawan, and people like to come here, have their photographs taken. It's Instagram ready, as they say, and many people like to understand about the culture of Siniawan, and it's our duty and our pleasure to try to explain that to people and share that story with people. So that's really what Siniawan is about. That's what the Bikalan is about. So if you're in this place anytime, come and see us, relax, enjoy yourself here, and have a good evening. So thank you very much and appreciate the time.
What About Kuching is a community-driven festival of arts, culture, and lifestyle of the people of Kuching, Sarawak. It is a month-long festival in October that is filled with multi-genre programs centered in the city. I founded a performance art group to participate in an art event of the 2019 festival. In this project, like Melaka Arts and Performance Festival, I once again had the opportunity to choreograph a performance art theatre piece which I called Dream Wanderers. The work is a retrospective of my travels and journey as an indigenous artist of Borneo going abroad. It tells the tale of rites of passage by young Dayak men who wishes to travel away from their community to test their resolves and seek pastures anew in lands far away. They engage in initiation rites held by shamans as they prepare for their journey ahead.
I let it on through like the wind that passed in my body. I let the spirit to control me. I let me all understand and all the gravity of what we have now. Feel the power. Feel the power. Feel the power of the ancestors. Stomping my foot on the ground. Going up to my body, to my soul, to my head. It's mana. It's not tapu. It's mana. It's my power. And it's agile. It's magic. It's life.
The performance ends with a three-toast salute to the gods and ancestors, the underworld beings, and finally to humanity.
Budaya, 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 Budaya.
The second biannual Bimiyaga Budaya Festival was the highlight of the 2019 Year of Arts and Culture for Sarawak. Budaya was held in the city of Kuching in middle November and was a grand cultural exchange between members of the Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East ASEAN Growth Area. Tun Jugah Foundation, the cultural organization where I took up an apprenticeship in Iban traditional textile weaving, was invited to direct Intertwining Dreams, a showcase of ikat textiles from the 4 members of Bimiyaga, as well as demonstrations on weaving skills by the weaver. As you can observe, I am demonstrating to the public the ikat technique of Iban textile weaving. Budaya was indeed a celebration of culture and arts of the region, and I was tremendously thankful to be part of this grand exchange. Also, it was the first time the festival was ever held in Malaysia. In early 2020, I successfully submitted an application to participate in the 2020 Rainforest World Music Festival Fringe. As an artistic director of my very own theatre production for the very first time, I felt a deep sense of joy and accomplishment. It was a moment to exhibit my capabilities and collaborate with some of the best local talents from Sarawak. My colleagues and I worked passionately and tirelessly to prepare scripts and photography and images to promote our production, Dream Wanderer. And we were promised to be the highlight of the festival launching by the organizer. However,
We'll take you to Downing Street now to hear.
And now to the latest on the coronavirus. The United States is...
Malaysia is reimposing movement restrictions in its capital and surrounding areas.
COVID-19 struck and the festival was cancelled. In an effort to uplift the morals of fellow Malaysians, especially Sarawakian, during the movement of control order, artist Elena Morang produced a music video of her song Lileng. She responded by inviting various artists of Sarawak origins and from diverse journeys to be part of this music video. I contributed a short video clip of the Iban traditional male dance, which was included in the multi-collaboration. Lileng was a solidarity project in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic as an art community. It was an admirable effort by Elena's part to raise the spirit of the masses in the midst of lockdown. I believe it was a successful project as it helped bring a sense of togetherness and solidarity in enduring the stressfulness and anxious periods of COVID-19 as a community of art practitioners. Finally, looking very much forward to 2021, I will be collaborating with digital artist Chong Yan Chuah in a digital art and research project titled Dream Wandering with the Guardian Spirits of Borneo at the Digital Arts and Media exhibition in Kuala Lumpur called Sensory, Sensorium of Inversion Immersion, curated by artist and arts educator Bimiyaga. This documentary.
Thank you. I think that was it.
Excellent,
so
great,
of...
fascinating.
Cheers. Thank you, David. Oops. Okay, 1 minute. So yeah, so that's pretty much what has happened for the past 2 years. Yeah, sadly, I could have done a really good show for the Fringe because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't expect it, but that happened. And oh my God, Monica, hello. Anyway, so yeah, it was a very challenging time, but yeah, I think thank God there was activities happening that managed to bring up our spirits. I think not only just Kuching, I think London was going through it. The whole world was experiencing a very devastating moment of going through this problem that we never faced in our life. But thank God we're almost at the end of that road. Hopefully, please God, we're hoping for it. That then art could come back, normalcy would come back to normal, come back, and then we could travel again. Hopefully one day we'd love to go back to London and visit friends as well. And I think humanity is always together. It's just we're affected in some ways, and we all experience the same thing. And it's quite a sad moment for the last perhaps about 6 to 8 months now. And I think friends and families have been affected by it. But we hope that as the new year 2021 arrives, I think new hope and new progress will happen with now that the Pfizer vaccine has already started rolling into UK, and hopefully by early mid next year things will come back to normal. And we're praying that we could do sensory in Kuala Lumpur as well. Myself, Chong Yan, and Xiaobin as the curator. So I think that's pretty much from my side. I pray that everyone will do well and healthy, and those who are affected, please stay strong and I think stay healthy as well. And looking forward to next year, we pray that many things would happen to our prayers and hopes that it will turn to the better and normalcy will return. And besides that, let's just pray and Merry Christmas and hopefully a very good new year for 2021. Thank you. That's pretty much from me. Passing on to David again, our MC. Thank you, David.
Great, thank you very much indeed, actually fascinating. And I was, because my own company, we engage particularly in stained glass. And it was interesting because one of the artists we work with, Helen Whitaker, she's also a graduate of the Prince's School of Traditional Art. And I particularly noticed because your photos with Dr. Khalid Azam, who I met in 2019.
Yes.
Yeah. So fascinating.
Yes.
So we'll have to connect afterwards and have a conversation about that.
Cheers, David. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Brilliant. Thanks for all that. Okay, so Chong Yan, over to you, sir.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone in London, and good evening for everyone in Malaysia. So my name is Chong Yan Chuah. I'm a digital artist as well as an architectural designer.
Psalm 9720, 2600 hours. M1 is a paradise, teeming with exotic animal life and stunning landscapes. A new wonder awaits in every grain of sand under every rock. Hundreds of lifetimes will uncover all its secrets made and remade from the eternal cycle of energy. The wonders of the unknown. A new site of exploration calls me. A beautiful planet called Earth. I'm going home. I'm also ready for the next adventure.
So yeah, again, good morning, everyone. My name is Chong Yan. I'm a digital artist as well as architectural designer. So in terms of the art that I do, my work mainly lies within the realm of storytelling as well as world building, and as well as research to mainly review and craft narrative of human society through a diverse range of time-based media as well as 3D environment like this. So I thought for today's presentation, I would narrate and bring you all on the journey and share to you glimpses into my world, the world that I create as a world builder as well as an artist, and I'll present it in a chaotic fragments. Yeah. So this will kind of go through thought experiment, exploration into the narrative and condition that I find interesting, as well as the story, landscape, and soundscape of the imaginary. So my work as an artist lies within the experience and implication of our rapidly shifting cultures, technologies, and socio-economics. And I normally immerse myself into the current or potential reality. In terms of artistic value, I tend to think that through fiction, we can get a better reflection of the reality that we live in. So I use fiction as a tool. Fiction as a mode of speculation. It's normally common in entertainment, but it also holds vast potential as a tool for techno-cultural analysis and critique. I embrace the power of fiction to review emerging causalities and use storytelling as a methodology to introduce new ideas and challenge our existing assumptions. My background, I study at the Architecture Association School of Architecture, and back in school, I experimented with the notion that filmmaking and world building might be a legitimate form of architectural practice. For us and for me personally, architecture is the purposeful manipulation of space to generate culture. I believe that as we begin to live our life more and more online and design within the virtual environment, of space as a physical environment and might somewhat be limited. I viewed online space, literary space, and remember space as a powerful territory territory that increasingly shape our behaviors and cultures. So when I work through fiction, the world that I create may seem fantastical and strange. This foundation of storytelling means that we actually work entirely from real events and use fiction and speculation to exaggerate the changes that are happening all around us, creating lies that reveal the truth.
It was a love affair. When I found Somnii XYZG, I felt alive once more, overcome with the thirst to experience everything, learn everything. My joy in novelty was hedonistic, reckless. I was an explorer, called to seek out new worlds and civilizations, to go beyond the frontiers of my own knowledge and gather for others the wonders of the unknown. I remember the contraction of my heart as I entered the system's orbit. My mind raced ahead to the future and placed itself within alien landscapes, my skin tingling with the anticipation of new atmospheres and textures. The lethargy of my earthly existence was falling away. I had been an automaton, moving through overstudied environments. The 27 years I spent within Somnii XYZG revealed to me the beauty, complexity, danger, and wonder of her worlds. It's a joy to share my footage and my discoveries. Voices clearer than mine will recount my journey. By way of an early conclusion, I will say that while the laws of thermodynamics indeed confirm that there is nothing new under the sun, it does not then follow that we can never look at the world in a new way.
Can you hear me properly now? Is it louder?
Yep, all's good. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Let me just. Okay. So I'll share with you all two body of work today. The first one is called 27 Years of Lazarian Delights. 27 Years of Lazarian Delight, it's a world built out of magical realism to produce a project of pure world building. It's centered around the discovery of a trinary system of planet orbiting two distant stars, namely Somnii XYZG. And the work takes form of evidence brought back to Earth from this ambitious explorer by this imagined land that he went to, and he came back after 27 years. So on the frame right now, this is the universe map of where Somnii XYZG is located in. Here are some of the cartography that was documented during this exploration by the explorer. I'm gonna flip through some of the slide. The time zoning, that's quite interesting because like the three planet, namely M1, M2, and M3, has a different kind of zone of time. So like the zone of the time is kind of distorted and skewed as part of the cartography. And that's the three different planets, M1, M2, and M3. Here are some of the drawings that I made during the exploration to the planet. And that moved on to some of the documentation and archive of the monsters of the world. And some exhibition done in relationship to the project 27 Years of Lazarian Delights, some installation, as well as exhibition. So the second world building project I would like to share, it's titled Kyposis Through a Looking Glass. So it's kind of developed on the peak of the pandemic period over mid of this year. So that was during the peak of the lockdown in Malaysia, where I kind of like thought about the idea of losing the sense of touch, losing the sense of like meeting people outside. So I created a whole body of installation, digital installation work to showcase in the public. Started throwing around conversation about how do you exhibit a work in the peak of pandemic when no galleries are open. So Kibosis, it's basically a video game installation developed during the pandemic period in response to the idea of unhappiness, and it kind of interpret the notion of isolation through a multi-layer context, right? The worldwide lockdown, as well as the solidarity of path of an artist. And here, stretched humans are juxtaposed in the sense of the visual, expressing a certain longing of human touch and interaction, at the same time addressing the perpetual struggle between an individual as well as a collective concern. So what I did for this exhibition was I created a virtual gallery on the website where you can just access it. Just go to www.kibosis.com beta version, and you'll be able to play through the game and kind of browse around this idea of a virtual space or virtual gallery, which is relatively interesting, where on top of you viewing the art itself, the gallery itself become an architectural virtual space that you can roam around and explore around. And because of the demand of the, during that time where my computer can only handle that much of a traffic, I moved the exhibition into a physical space, the game design to a physical space, and it became from a virtual exhibition into a physical exhibition where the player, can kind of go into a physical space and explore the work. So that's pretty much it on my side, and thank you so much for listening to me, and that's the work or art that I do in a nutshell. Thank you so much. Passing back.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much. Fascinating conversation there about how you're moving art in this particular genre, if I can put it that way, that you've chosen. I like that idea, how virtual became physical again as well, and pushing those boundaries apart, I suppose, and then bringing them back together. So thank you very much indeed, Chong Yan, for that. Now handing over to Saobin Yap. How do we work together? Examples from art practices in Malaysia. Saobin, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, all good.
Right, great. Right, thank you very much to the British Malaysian Association as well as the Sarawak Association for hosting us, inviting us, and definitely thank you to Ashley from bringing me here. Well, when Stephanie briefed us, well, I had a very interesting brief in the sense that a few tasks, how to talk about my work and also give an idea of the art scene in Malaysia, as well as coming from Ashley, because he's very excited, as we can tell, and about the project that we are working together. So hence the title, how do we come together and work together? And in a way, also talking about sharing with you all the practice that I do and how that actually could track together to bring us to the project that Ashley and Chong Yan will be working on. All right. So my experience again with the UK actually was actually in last millennium. I was in Birmingham doing a fine arts degree. So both these works actually that you see here is actually made during that period of time. All right. So then again at the Birmingham Institute of Art and Design, the Margaret School campus, Margaret Street campus. All right. This is actually an installation titled Museum of Alternative Science and Knowledge, Department of Oriented Discipline. So a lot of my work at that time actually deals with kind of investigating the meanings of art object and also the kind of knowledge that surrounds it. And in the context of this talk here, basically what is actually dealing with is that the context whereby an exhibition takes place and the kind of story we could actually imagine, fictional or whatnot that can refer to, that can give meaning, and also make it interesting for us to investigate some of the structure, all right, whether it's exhibition space, whether this is actually the Margaret Street campus is actually a Class A Victorian building during the Industrial Revolution. So there's a lot of layers of historical meaning that we can unearth and play with as well. And so the idea of able to perform acupuncture on structures and objects is sort of like an imaginary discipline, in a way to ask about how do we heal things, and how not only human and not only animals and life form, but objects as such, material as such, all right? If we think about geomancy and feng shui, in a way, is talking about healing. I think this is pretty apt in a sense that what Ashley and Chong Yan also sort of alluded to, the idea of healing and speculating from something different, because we all yearn for something good, that could happen in our current period, our present times. Yeah. And so this, in a way, talks about my work is actually dealing with the space, as in the sense that the museum space or the exhibition space. All right. And the title here, you can see that who gave birth to the Great White One. So it's not only about the artist giving birth, in a sense, to an object, but also the audience coming to see the work. Yeah, in a way, the audience also participate in the whole process of meanings giving, conference of meaning. And how about the white walls? How about the frames? How about the paper, where, in a sense, that history of art is written? So, in a way, how does the work perform? How does it work? In a sense, it's not just the artist only, right? We need a lot of participation. We need a lot of people being engaged. There's the dynamics of different actors taking up agency in order to confer values, confer meanings to an art object or to an exhibition, to a event. Okay, and this leads me to further questioning when I return to KL. Did a series of work questioning this kind of investigating the value and meaning of art within the framework of an institution. So at the same time, I was actually teaching as well at the university, and also meeting up with other peers and friends in Kuala Lumpur. And this is actually, in a way, I think also important to think about the life of an artist and the career as an artist. The process of what we do is not only within the studio, and is also with our colleagues and our peers, and they're different people, right? And this is very important in a sense to think about the sociological aspect of practice. And again, I think we see that when Ashley showed us the very important the video that Alina Murang actually initiated, and that again talk about the societal aspect of bringing in as a way of bringing creative people together. All right, so in that sense, what I think about is no longer just the space within the museum and exhibition, but also the kind of a space for the community, be it a kind of real neighborhood or a kind of a communal community in that sense. So Rumah Air Panas is an artist collective that I joined in 2002, and it was actually a bungalow in the suburb of KL. We do different things. We organize activities and do DIY shows. And most importantly, having an artist and curators and researcher coming in to Malaysia and Southeast Asia to host them for exhibition, to talks and whatnot. And Spaces, for example, is also sort of self-initiated reading and exhibition. So again, in a way, I want to allude to the idea of how do we work together, how do we come together, right? There's a lot of, by accident, by different kind of discovering each other in a sense, engagement, right? Those are very important factors alongside the experience of making art in the studio. And so with my peers from Rumah Panas, for example, one of the projects we did, which is quite important, is the Contemporary Arts in School. So we did this in Stella Maris High School. So bringing in artists to do installation work, workshop together with the students, and sort of like almost a nine months engagement with the school community. So bringing in sculptors such as Tengku Sabri, Koksiwai, who's actually a video and performance artist, Dean Lingwei at the bottom there, who's actually a media-based artist from Melbourne. So there are different people that also in our career or in our practice we meet. Dean was actually on the Asia Link grant coming from Australia, and I was actually doing residency in Malaysia at that time. And this is how the kind of a chance encounterment, I would say, right, that can bring us to do possible things. Right? So we would never know how things would happen. And in that sense, because of what I do together with Rumah Panas, exposed me to the experience of curating. And so some of my projects that I had curated, for example, is the State of Ebbs and Flow, which is actually in a digital art and culture festival in Penang in 2015. The artist feature here is actually Okui Lala. So here's an example again how the artist herself actually does not just make work in the studio, so she does research as well. And here she actually works with a group of friends. They are actually from Myanmar and then migrated to Penang and works in different fields. What is also interesting that Okui actually discovered that if those who are familiar with Penang, you'll find that they have like road names under Yangon, Rangoon, Burma, and things like that. So there is actually the kind of a history, a layer of history in Penang, and in terms of history as well as communities of different stage, at that different stage within the last 100 years that have migrated or come to Penang to live there. And in that sense, what is interesting for Okui is that she wants to engage them and also in a sense to learn and to find out what are the differences and similarity. So those who are familiar with the Burmese cuisine, for example, they have a interesting cuisine of eating tea leaves salad. So lefet, right? So Let's Drink and Eat Tea is actually a kind of video installation and also coupled with a performance or workshop that Okui here in the maroon shirt actually works together and also do the translation among these two other Burmese friends actually. So they were speaking like English, Bahasa, Hokkien, as well as Burmese and you can see the kind of complexity of translation. So I'm quite sure those who actually travel to not just in Kuala Lumpur, West Malaysia, the peninsula, when they go to Borneo as well, there are actually different types of different languages and dialects, and that makes it interesting. So the point here in the sense that artists also works with not only, we do also have different collaborators, and this is what I want to show you, that Okui Lala, for example, will have collaborators such as her friends from different countries. And similar in the same event, Shafiq Abdul Samad actually has this interactive installation where he would have the audience, okay, the passerby to interact with this noise painter. So your action and the noise that you make would actually, in a sense, create this digital painting on the screen on your left here, all right? And of course, I want to bring in Pangrok Sulap was also a group that have also worked with in one of the projects we curated. And here is another example of a collective which is based in Sabah, and they have interesting woodcut print approach where they actually work with disenfranchised community from the kampong or village, and then try to bring out their stories, the issues they have with not only development, the kind of condition they have going through and things like that. And what they do also is that they teach them. So it's not only just extracting stories from the community, but they work with them by teaching them, also hopefully imparting, sharing that ideas of doing using woodblock, okay, to do their own stories. So these are all important in a way, and to show you that what I do in a sense is moving from artist to also working as curating and teaching, is that also I we're bound to meet different people of different interests. So here I want to show you a map, for example, that shows the kind of practice or the kind of mapping out the art scene in Malaysia, which is actually produced by Rouge Art, which is an art consultancy based in KL. But they also do something such as the narratives in Malaysian art, which for those who are interested could actually look into this 4 volumes anthology that sort of took about 10 years at least, and sort of map out and also have discussion about the kind of different narratives and discourse about modern and contemporary art practice in Malaysia from different entry point. And which brings me to the latest project that Rogue Art did together with produced for Cendana, okay, which is this map, and is actually a map for the visual arts ecosystem map. And you can download this map. You can look into the links, and then I can get the BM to share with you later. And this map, in a sense, also run by, commissioned and produced by the Culture Economy Development Agency. Okay, and they sort of like also providing an important keys and data and information for those who are interested, and also within the art ecology in Malaysia. All right. To know and also to be able to practice. And hence brings me to the last point of my slide, is that earlier this year, I have been engaged by Cendana to do a project which is Art in the City 2021, and has sort of led by Ashley. So Sensory is actually the title of the project, and Sensorium of Inversion and Immersion. I won't go further in terms of discussing. We can talk about it if anyone interested in the concept. But these are 4 pair of artists that I've proposed to commission the artwork by them. And so Ashley and Chong Yan is one of the important ones that can also bring us the kind of understanding and experience, okay, coming from Borneo. And Chong Yan, as we have seen, his work is dealing with like a speculative fiction, but also in a way thinking about our contemporary times, our present space. And I think this is important in a way that how I'm excited to think about how Ashley's understanding of dream wandering, of kind of spiritual realm, as well as Chong Yan's talking about the imaginary in that sense, could come together into kind of immersive media installation that engages visual and sound for this project that we're going to do. So I hope we can look forward to that. And essentially, this is how we come together. That is an analogy, is a metaphor, and also the possibility that we can work with people of different talents and different capacity to produce interesting arts. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much indeed. You covered an enormous amount there. Fascinating, the journey you took us through, and I was particularly interested in this idea or the concept of art engaging with the community, and obviously art engaging with society. And I noticed you even stuck in Hegel and Heidegger as a couple of philosophers in there. So I was reading everything. So well done. You've been given an enormous task there. So before we go on to our next one, I'm just going to have a look at the Q&A. So Chong Yan has kindly already answered the technical one on the software that's being used. If you are into the software that's being used, you can look under the Q&A. It's under the answered section in their 3D Max Unreal Engine 4. Okay, we have a question here from June, and it's a question to Ashley. So get ready. How has your artist style developed after your time at the Apprentice School and in London? So what effect did the Apprentice School in London have upon your artistic style? Ashley.
Okay, hello. Hi, thanks, June. Yeah, I think, well, my works have been quite not refined prior to going to London, but then as I did the 2 years, it was just a lot of hand practice, because the school taught us about hand to heart. So it's very much coming from the jiwa, as they say in Southeast Asia, from the soul to the hand. So it's a lot of work, discipline, and it has refined my work in terms of visual expression, in terms of tones, as well as the vocabulary of what do you call it, traditional traditional context, I guess. Like you see, like it was very nice when I was in London. They gave me this education about how the Silk Road had an exchange between China all the way to Persia, and it allowed me to think about exchange, cultural exchange, and I questioned a lot of Southeast Asia being original. So there was, Borneo was like, ooh, we're from a very unexposed island, and it's a lot of cannibal people. So nobody comes in with any culture. So that was what I assumed. But then, well, not exactly, but in some sense. But eventually, going to that particular sort of thinking field allowed me a chance to think. Okay, there was the Silk Road exchange that was way ahead before the spice route exchange. So with the Nusantara or the Southeast Asian spice route, where there was exchange between cultures. Even here's a very good example, which Monica would love to hear. It's about the concept of the dragon in the jar, the dragon jar that we have in Borneo. So we use that in a lot of the Orang Ulu design, where we have the double dragon or the aso. It was called aso in some ways, but it's this double dragon that was always painted into the Orang Ulu motif. But apparently, well, I won't say apparently, but in some sense, it was adopted. Well, by theory, a lot of people mentioned that it was adopted from the Chinese vase that they had, that had all the dragon motif and was developed. So there was exchange already. Even a lot of examples that I slowly figure out and see that, oh wow, there was a lot of exchange in Southeast Asia with Indic as well as Chinese influences. And talk about Europe, there was the Venetian beads, in particular the Lukut beads that they used by the Orang Ulu to buy slaves that came from Venetians from Italy. So yeah, to trade human, you had to get beads from Europe. So this is one example that I sort of learned the exchange about archetypical motif, archetype, like the tree of life that I use, the comparative studies of tree of life motifs of Southeast Asia. It was also a very global archetype motif that was used from different walks of life and a different tradition in the world. So we were one of it, but we don't know the origin. It could be something that came from the soul of the people, I guess. So I guess the Princess School gave me the opportunity to see it in a very universal sense, and to see that my tradition is part of a bigger tradition. So that's what I want to see in works that I want to do. It was very in the future. It's about connecting people and to expose the context of great art, that we all share a common humanity. That's what I hope to work on as we go along. Thanks, David. Great. Yeah, hopefully that works, Jane.
No, great. Thank you very much for sharing that indeed. And I think there's a lot of themes, obviously, like with Sarawak and Chong Yan was talking about that as well, the interconnected aspects of art, the styles, and obviously as we move forward, and Yong Chan talking about the cosmos, etc. Okay, I'm very much aware of time, so actually I'm going to put you back on the spot, and it's time for our Sapar performance from you. So are you ready, sir?
Oh, yes, sir. Ready as you are. Okay, so I will be performing to everyone. Can you hear that?
Yep.
So this is a sape. It is as well it is as well called a Borneo lute. So the sape is originally from Sarawak and Kalimantan, and it's of the Dayak of the Orang Ulu people. That's where my mom is, so that's my heritage. So I'm hoping to perform two tunes. Firstly, the first tune is called Ngajat Doh Lasan. So Ngajat Doh Lasan is a tune of virtuoso by the lady. It's a solo dance by a lady, and it's a lady solo dance. That's why the Lasan means solo ladies dance, and it's shared by the Kenyah and the Kayan. And as she dances, this tune is an accompaniment to her movement. So as she goes along the movement, she wears a pom-pom sort of looking apparatus on her hands, on her palm, on her hands, and it is made of what do you call it? Hornbill feathers. So hornbill tail feathers. So as she dances and twirls and move, it replicates the movement of the great hornbill, which is the upper realm god or deity of the Orang Ulu people group. So it is as well as a means to mention about the heroism of the women in the Orang Ulu society, because in the olden days, I wouldn't say pagan, but the ancestral system belief ways, the Orang Ulu was very egalitarian as well. There is the heroes in the men as well as in the women. So this is a showcase of their virtuoso in mastering their arts in the dance. So I'm only as a musician to bring the tune to support the dance. So this is the song called Ngajat Doh Lasan by the Orang Ulu Kayan and Kenyah Society. Yes. So that's Ngajat Doh Lasan. Normally it will be a very cycle tune, so it will be repeating itself. It's always the function is to showcase the dancer. So this is the support song to that particular dance of the female virtuoso dancer. Yes, with the movement. Yes, so that's pretty much a movement. It's very graceful in its performance. So the next one is called which one of my favorites. So it's called Londok Anak. Londok Anak means child. So child, it could be a baby or it could be a young adult, right to the young adult. So that's the range. So Anak Londok means lullaby. So it's a lullaby for a young child. And how the folklore behind this song was how a grandfather received his firstborn of his grandson, and he was very excited and very happy. He composed a tune called Londok Anak as a baby lullaby to celebrate the baby's birth, as well as a means to play a tune to a composition to the child to celebrate its coming into life into the family. And every time when it gives a lullaby to put the child to sleep, so it's a sleeper song, and it is a very nice tune that I enjoy playing quite often to myself as well. So here's Londok Anak Baby Lullaby. On behalf of myself, I would like to thank you everyone for listening to my tune, and thank you for enjoying our talk and being here. For Shabin Yap as well as Chong Yan for the presentation. And I would like to wish you a very blessed Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, a happy bright New Year 2021, everyone. Thank you, David. Thank you, BMS. Thank you, Sarawak Association, and thank you everyone for attending, as well as my co-artists. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Ashley. Thank you very much. Thank you. And for your best wishes as well, which are most gratefully received. So may I now invite Jason Bruck to address us. Jason.
Hello, and thank you, Ashley, so much. That was actually a really nice vote of thanks yourself at the end of your performance. There's nothing more evocative than for Borneo and Sarawak than Sape music. It's really nice to have that at the end of the performance. I think the BMS committee and members will be really happy to see how you've taken your experience of the scholarship and the Princess School experience back to your work in Malaysia to share that more widely. So thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, Sabin Yap and Chong Yan for sharing. It felt like we had 3 presentations in one, so there's quite a lot to take in, but thank you so much for your time, your workshops, your virtual gallery. I thought was really such a wonderful idea to share things more widely. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak to us. On behalf of all of the members, the committees of the Sarawak Association, the British Malaysian Society, really grateful for you coming to speak to us. Hopefully we'll get to meet you in person at some point in the not too distant future. And finally, just to thank the organizers, in particular, Stephanie for getting this together, Masim, David, Ben, and everyone who made this possible, because there's a lot of organization and logistics involved in making these things run smoothly. So thank you very much again. And just finally, if we could all virtually thank our presenters today for coming to speak to us. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much indeed, Jason. And on behalf of myself as the titular Zoom head here, I would particularly like to thank Stephanie Chong and also Ben Mock as well. Thank you very much for their engagement. And I think one of the great things coming out of this particular strange situation we are in is this ability now to reach out to our friends across the world and allow this kind of thing to occur. So hopefully this will be something we can embrace going forward. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for joining us here. I wish those of you not in the UK an excellent evening, those in the UK an excellent afternoon, and we're going to close down now, and I wish you the very best. Thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye now.
Thank you, David.